Jason to do is give us just a few minutes of background on his experiences, his experiences sort of coming out of graduate school and founding a tremendously successful company, and then we'll open it up to some Q&A after maybe 10 or 15 minutes or something like that. So welcome.
Thanks so much, and thanks for ordering dinner through Seamlessweb. I was initially asked whether or not I was comfortable with the filming of this, but that was actually, the first question was, we're going to go out and have a few beers afterwards. Are you comfortable with that? And I said, sure. And then they said, and we're going to film it. I said, so I'm glad to see the filmings for the actual presentation. Thanks again for inviting me. I really appreciate it. I actually entered with the class of 1998 at NYU Law School and graduated with the class of 99 from the business school. I'll start a little bit of, I'll basically give you an overview of my background and then open it up for questions and feel free to ask anything. I went to University of Maryland. I studied finance. While I was at Maryland, I started a small jewelry business selling what are called fraternity and sorority lavaliers door to door, sort of a little insignia that when people are dating, often a boyfriend will give to a girlfriend and a big sister will give to a little sister. And the motto was really to go to the fraternity or sorority and get the pledge trainer or someone who is able to make purchases on sort of a large scale on behalf of all the people within the fraternity or sorority. We would sell to that one decision maker, and then they would sort of act as our outsourced sales force to the other people within the firm. And we started that. We actually built the business out, and I got a letter from Jostens Jewelers, a cease and desist letter. And I thought that was really interesting because I couldn't imagine what I was doing wrong. It seemed like the business was going well. All of our customers seemed really, really happy. Our prices were lower than they would have been at the stores. And so I brought this paper to the Student Legal Aid office and sat down with a bunch of the lawyers there and told them about my experience and what had happened. And they did some research. And they came back and they basically told me that I was violating Jostens Jewelers' intellectual property and that Jostens had an exclusive for some of the trademarks with some of the fraternities and sororities, the combination of letters. So I basically, the business ended at that point. But it got me really interested in how the law might be able to affect business. And so I decided I would go to law school, one, so that wouldn't happen again. And two, really just because I thought it would be really, really interesting, and three, because it was 3 extra years before I'd actually have to enter the real world. So I applied to schools. I got into NYU and came up to Greenwich Village. And the first day of school, I was asked, by a number of students. Everyone walked around, what kind of law do you want to practice? What kind of law do you want to practice? And I actually said, I don't think I want to practice law. I'd like to start a business someday. And one of my fellow classmates said, me too, and he came over and we started talking and we became the best of friends, and throughout law school really brainstormed on a bunch of different business ideas. And at the end of my first year, I actually clerked at the SEC in Boston and got tasked on a derivatives trading scheme, or I should say investigating a derivatives trading scheme. And found it super interesting, and I had a finance undergrad background but didn't really have the strength around quantitative components that I would like, so I decided I would go back to grad school for my MBA. And so I fortunately had 3 years of grad school with my friends, and then I was in school for an additional year while a lot of them graduated and they went to work at law firms and banks and what have you. And we were still trying to come up with a business, couldn't really come up with something that we thought had legs. And so when everyone graduated, I was in the fortunate seat of hearing a lot of people's stories about what they liked about their job, some of the pain points, some of the issues. I graduated in May, traveled a little bit, and then started working at a law firm at the end of August. And as part of the practice at law firms and banks and professional services firms, professionals are allowed to order food and then pay for it, submitting a reimbursement form back to the firm, and the firm then bills those charges out to the individual client. It's sort of a cumbersome process, but I was there, and I walked around the halls when I first got to the firm, and I started ordering people's dinners and paying for it on my personal credit card because I got 2% cash back. And I thought, like, okay, I'm going to go to a law firm, and I know one of the questions that has come up is, why did I decide to practice? Did I want to go on the business side? And I'll sort of circle back with that later. But one night I was calling a bunch of restaurants that were all closed. All the go-to restaurants were closed. It was right around the Thanksgiving holiday. Couldn't find a restaurant that was open, and any of the ones that were open, they wouldn't deliver to my specific area. And so I sat at my desk. I was frustrated. Had a couple of Kit Kat bars and called my friend from law school, and we started talking about the idea. And he said that, and we started talking about the problem and how widespread was the problem, and is it a problem for the customer or for the firm? And he told me that his brother actually had some thoughts around this many years earlier when he was an associate at a law firm. So the three of us got together and started brainstorming about how we might be able to solve the problem. And basically the problem was, you're at your desk and it's late at night and you want to order food. You don't know what's open. You don't know what delivers to you. And then even if you find the place, that becomes there's still a complex problem behind that of filling out a reimbursement form. You're out of pocket for some period of time. You then submit all the charges, and what most people did was they would wait until their drawer would fill up with receipts. They then submit all the receipts in at the same time, and in the meantime the clients close down that particular matter, so the firm ends up absorbing those charges. So in any event, we came up with this concept of essentially enabling an enterprise solution to this problem. I went into the CFO of my law firm, and I told him that a couple of my friends were thinking about starting a business. And essentially what their business was going to do is it was going to put menus online and implement business rules within the platform so that a partner has $20 to order for dinner and an associate has $15 to order for dinner. And all the billing is done right there online and is validated. And it would eliminate all the reimbursement hassles and all the unnecessary charges that the firm would absorb. And this is a guy who didn't really have that much time for a brand new associate. He literally jumped up from his desk and he gave me his card and he said, as soon as your friends have their business off the ground, please let me know. So I took that. My partner spoke with the COO of his law firm, which is one block down from here, and had a very similar response. And so we said, okay, great. There's a huge demand for this. Let's, or at least data points of two. But there's at least two companies that want this service. So we decided that we would write a business plan, and we wrote a business plan that essentially, the theory was we would post the menus from a whole host of restaurants, we would negotiate volume-based discounts with the restaurants, and we would make whatever that margin was. And I'll go into in a moment the specifics on the business model.